webinar. So I'm Minna Höcka from Finland, and I'm very happy to be here, and I'm very delighted that we can start now our last series of webinars in our project. So I'm working in Diakonia University of Applied Sciences, and I'm a registered nurse, and I'm happy to be one of our team members from Finland who have been working on these webinars. And I'm very delighted to now head the floor to Miina-Liisa Flinkilä. She's a registered nurse. She has a very strong experience in working with a hospice in a hospice with palliative care patients. And also she has a master in health sciences. She is an PhD student. She's actually doing her PhD partly in our project, in Impact project. She's also working part-time in our project, and she's doing a PhD about escape games, and also this escape game will be available in due time in our web page. So everything we are developing in this project will be available for everyone. So now, Miina-Liisa, happy that you are here, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Minna, for the introduction. I am truly grateful for the opportunity to be here today and to take part of this important webinar together with you all. A warm welcome to every one of you. I see that here are many participants from across Europe and also around the world. It is really wonderful to see so many of you gathered here today on the reflection of this really important topic together. So my name is Miina-Liisa Flinkilä, like Minna said, and I hope that we can keep this session interactive. Please feel free to share your thoughts and reflections in the chat throughout the presentation. Me and Minna will follow your comments and respond to them as we go. And there will also be, at the end, time for discussion. Our topic today is really relevant to our daily work and often challenges us to, in practice, ethical situations in palliative care. So let's start by take a closer look at the agenda for today. Today we will explore 5 key topics. What is ethics? Ethics in palliative care, moral ethical dilemmas in palliative care, what it means to be a courageous nurse encountering palliative care patients, and finally, ethics in leadership. So let's be. Yes.
I just say that I see a screen with our names on the PowerPoint. So if you try to share it so that it's not like.
Then it doesn't. Oh, just a moment. This is like all good webinar starts.
Yeah, now it's going away. Thank you very much.
Now.
Perfect.
Perfect. Thanks. Then we will continue. But first I will ask you, when you hear the word ethics, what comes first to your mind? And now you can write your answers in the chat. I will give you a moment to think about the question and to write it. And don't be worried about the short silences that we have when you are writing and reflecting. And I see that there are some of you just doing so.
Yes, and there we are getting answers. I promised to be Miina-Liisa's chat girl, so I'm just telling her there are code of conduct, acting in the right way, right and wrong, moral guidelines, dignity, moral sensitivity, moral guidelines, rules, principles, dilemmas, responses to moral topics, legal and moral decision making. A lot of things comes up.
Oh, that's really good. Autonomy. Thank you for your answers. I think they really reflect the diversity of perspective on ethics. There are many layers. It's quite complexity. But yet I think that we have a shared understanding of what it means, or what can it mean. There are many definitions of ethics, but I think that we can all agree that ethics is about rules and regulations, but it's more than that. Individuality, integrity, responsibility, you say. It is the study and practice of what is good, right, and virtuous. Philosopher Audi describes ethics as the study of morality and the principles that guide our actions. Habermas reminds us that ethics is also a process, how we can make decisions in real-life contexts, especially in communication with others. In palliative care, this becomes very practical. Ethical discernment is about seeing when a situation has an ethical dimension and deciding what is the right thing to do. In nursing, we often refer to our 4 ethical principles. Autonomy, respecting the patient's right to make decisions, even when they can no longer speak for themselves. For example, throughout advanced directives. Beneficence, acting for the patient's good and protecting their dignity. Like you said, also justice, providing fair and equitable care, even when resources are limited. And non-maleficence, avoiding harm and carefully weighing risk and benefits. And beneficence. Did I say it already? But it's acting for the patient's good and protecting their dignity. So in palliative care, these principles are not abstract theories. They are a part of our everyday practice. Nurses are the center of this. They advocate for patient, support advanced care planning, and work as a part of interdisciplinary team to prevent and relieve suffering. Nurses face cultural and ethical challenges daily, but their role is crucial for ensuring care remains both compassionate and guided by ethics. Nurses in palliative care can spend a lot of time with patients and their families. This helps them to understand what is important to the patient. This makes nurses key players in putting ethical principles into practice. These principles include understanding and applying ethical principles, contributing to advanced care planning, respecting patient autonomy, dignity, and cultural background, and managing conflicts when they arise. Nurses follow professional codes of ethics. This means that they try to provide fair and respectful care. They do this even when they have to make difficult decisions about end-of-life care. Now, we will look more closely at the moral ethical dilemmas we face in palliative care. Moral and ethical dilemmas in palliative care occur when nurses face situations where values and interests conflict and there might be no single right thing to do. Examples include decision about whether to continue life-prolonging treatments or focus solely on comfort care. Often dilemmas emerge when respecting patient autonomy conflicts with family expectations or when institutional guidelines clash with professional judgment. For us nurses, these dilemmas can be really distressing. Sometimes you know what is the right thing, would be the right thing for the patient, but you cannot act due to external constraints. And this is what we call moral distress. In practice, dilemmas may be as large as decision to withdraw treatment or as everyday as deciding whether and when to reposition a patient to prevent complications such as ulcers, even though you know the movement also will cause pain. And now I want you to think about moral ethical dilemma you have faced in your own practice. If you feel comfortable, you can write it on the chat, and even a short answers, one example of one thing can be really valuable for us. So we can look at how common these dilemmas are in our daily practice. Here are some examples already, but now we have time to wait for you to respond. It's not an easy one. Yeah, conflicts, what the patient wants and what the family wants. Euthanasia, family trying to force feed in end-of-life situations. Sedation, collusion. Assisted dying when patient is in external distress. How family dynamics shape decision-making in complex health situations. Yeah. Conflicting opinions, caregiver burden, morphine administration, physical restraint. Thank you for your sharing these really good moral ethical dilemmas. How the patient wants to live. Living standards may be different to yours. Stopping active treatments when the patient wants to continue. Sexuality. Yeah, priority of care between two patients. Yeah, if we are not telling the family members what to say. Yeah, tube feeding, staying at home or not. Patient don't want to know the diagnosis, whereas the team wish. Palliative care. Yeah, really good. Thank you all for those examples. They reflect little children really well, the moral ethical dilemmas in everyday work. This Nurse EduBallad Impact project also involves research, and one study focused specifically on the moral ethical dilemmas you have also described. I will tell you now a little more about the research that we are conducting. Aim of the research is to describe the moral ethical dilemmas nurses encounter in palliative care and to identify how nurses act, and how the behaviors they take in response. The data for the study was collected from 25 different countries, mostly from Europe, but across the world, between March and June 2024 throughout an electronic survey. The survey was available in 12 different languages and shared on selected social media channels. We received 247 responses, ranging from short answers to long narratives. And I would like to thank you all who participated in the study. The data were analyzed using content analysis. And as I'm starting my journey as a researcher, I have been studying these situations systematically. And during my own summer work this summer at the hospice, I was really surprised how vividly the nurses' descriptions, your and our descriptions, came in the life in the daily work. I think when you really pay attention to these issues, you start noticing them more and more, and like in everyday practice. And you begin to understand that they are a natural part of our daily work, especially when patients are facing difficult situations. For me, what became very clear during this summer was that what really matters is not whether these dilemmas appear, but do we recognize them, and how do we choose to respond to them? The moral ethical dilemmas that nurses encounter in their work can be complex sequences of events or single actions that are in conflict with their own values, norm, or interests. These real-life stories have been used to create learning tools that give voice to nurses around the world. One example is Erik's story. Erik's story combines the experiences of many nurses who encounter moral and ethical dilemmas in their work. The learning tool can be used in a variety of ways in palliative care training, education, and it will also be available in the project website. It's not there yet, but I think that when the projects go forward, it will be there. And next I will give you some examples like you gave us just a moment ago, but some examples about the ethical dilemmas. Here are some more from you. Should children be informed about their illness? Pain management, motivation. But here you can see individual moral and ethical dilemmas, which may, of course, cause further conflicts. Moral ethical dilemmas in palliative care may include, for example, actions by healthcare professionals or the patient relatives that are not in line with the patient expressed wishes. Nutrition at the end of life, patient has decided to hold information about their illness from their relatives. The views of relatives are in conflict with those of the patient or healthcare professionals, or with each other's, or inappropriate treatments at the end of life. And now I will give an example that describes a series of events involving a moral ethical dilemma. In palliative care, we often encounter situations where a patient has been receiving care for some time, but no treatment plan or advanced care planning has been completed during earlier contacts with healthcare services, like in acute care or primary care or hospice day services. When the patient loses decision-making capacity, important treatment decisions such as resuscitation must be and will be made together with the family. It is common that the family members have different points of view of the goals of care. Sometimes relatives may have disrespectful way towards staff, which makes decisions more challenging and can lead to focusing conversations on those family members who are easier to approach. This situation often leaves us wishing that we have been able to have these conversations with the patient earlier, while they were still able to participate. In cases like this, several moral ethical dilemmas appears. When and how to initiate palliative care conversations, how to ensure the patient's own voice is heard, whether care and communication remain equal when we find easier to speak with some family members than others. And I think most importantly, we are left with the fundamental dilemma of whether the decisions may truly reflect what the patient would have wanted. This is why it is so important to build competence in advanced care planning and communication. And I give you a hint that our project also provides clinical training materials on these topics, and they are available on our website. Situations like these, where planning comes too late or family members disagree, are something that we face often. I think at least I face often when I'm working in the hospice. Sometimes the challenges become even more concrete and emotional. For example, when family continue to feed the patient despite guidance from the care team. So now we can look at example in such situation. And I think that you all some of you said that already, this moral ethical dilemma. So now we have an example of it. But in palliative care, situation may arise when patient is at the very end of life and the family wishes to continue feeding, even though the natural changes of dying and swallowing difficulties have been carefully explained to the family. In some cases, this can lead to aspiration or pneumonia, causing severe symptoms that may require palliative sedation. These events can make the patient's last days more difficult and more symptomatic. After the patient's death, family may sometimes question the use of sedation and believe that it caused the death, not the treatment or not the Pneumonia, not the cancer or other disease, but the medication. Such situations raise difficult ethical questions. Should the whole chains of events be explained to the family, knowing it might increase their guilt and distress, or is it better to focus on supporting them emotionally without going into details? And I think examples like this show how emotionally and ethically demanding palliative care can be. There is rarely a perfect solution, yet decisions must still be made, even when the options feel difficult, and this is where moral courage comes in. Moral courage is what allows nurses to act according to ethical principles and their own values, even when doing so might lead to a conflict or negative consequences. In palliative care, moral courage means standing up for the patient wishes, advocating for their autonomy and dignity, and sometimes also challenging other members of the care team. It is also about being present with the patient as a unique person, showing respect, compassion, empathy, even when the situation is emotionally demanding. Developing a team culture that supports speaking up is essential to help nurses act with moral courage. And now I want you once again to think about this. So think about of a time when you had to speak up for the patient or challenge some decisions. What helped you find the courage? Or did you recognize something that made it difficult? I think it's not always easy to remember these situations, but I think thinking about them maybe next time will help us understand where we can find our own courage or what can hold us back. Yeah, my experience and knowledge base helped, but also my close connection to the family so I could advocate for their wishes. You can have courage if you always place the patient at the center of their care. Many years of practice, many years with supervision, making time to reflect. You cannot reflect fast. Yeah. The feeling that you want to give good care to your patient. Yeah, and you also want that one day somebody would do the same for you. When we as health providers pursued and insist in our treatment without thinking on what the patient needs. knowing the wishes. So you know that you are doing the right thing when you know the patient wishes. Dignity, respecting it, being compassionate, as being knowledgeable. When the flow of the dying process, that's really nicely put it. Flow of the dying process has been interrupted by family members' expectations. Oh. They are really good and really highlight the moral courage and also some of the barriers that makes it less easy to be a courageous nurse. Thank you for your reflection. And when we have talked about moral courage at the individual levels, let's look at the leadership. Ethical leadership is at the heart of palliative care management. Ethical leaders lead by example, apply ethical principles in everyday and proactively address challenges. They create supportive work culture where nurses feel safe to speak up and act with courage. And there was one comment about the supervision. So this is, I think, something to do with ethical leadership also. Research shows that ethical leaders strengthen nurses' psychological empowerment. They believe that they can make a difference. This improves self-efficacy, which is the essential for turning knowledge into action, even in difficult situations. In the end, ethical leadership benefits not only nurses, but also patients and families and the entire healthcare system. And now you have the next thing to think about. So if you think about the leader who inspired you to act ethically or speak up or to increase your moral courage, what did they do that made it easier for you to do the right thing? And do you recognize those actions of inspiring leaders? Stand up for junior nurses' rights. Safe space with non-judgmental feedback. They had the experience and confidence to express their opinion. They express their emotions. Very knowledgeable in all areas. really good ones, and you can continue typing them. I will get back to them if they share their doubts and admit the challenging ethical decisions making process. Encouraged to reflect on situation. Palliative consultant asked my opinion when I was a student nurse, showing that to make good decisions you should take opinions from a variety of professionals, showing their own vulnerability. I hope that all you leaders in this webinar all can also reflect from these answers. Thank you for sharing your reflections, and you can also continue to share them. I will read them. But you highlighted many important points about leadership. And now we can see how those match with what we know from research about the qualities of ethical leaders. Ethical leaders are like the lighthouses in the storm, and that's why this slide is the Be the Lighthouse. They remain calm, impartial, and focused on what truly matters: patient care and team well-being. They set the tone by showing ethical behavior in action, encouraging open discussion about ethical issues, and recognizing the unique skills of each nurse. They provide training to strengthen ethical decision-making and communication skills, and they promote interprofessional collaboration so that all professionals can contribute to shared decisions. They create opportunities for learning and growth, empower nurses to act within their responsibility, build trust, and show appreciation, and provide clear ethical guidelines for complex situations. This kind of leadership helps build a workplace where everyone feels valued and capable, and where patients receive the best possible care. Yes, very strong personality with a respectful moral compass. I think when we look at this slide, all of the points were in the chat as well. But now we have been coming to the end of today's webinar, and I sincerely thank you all for joining and for your active participations. I think this wasn't maybe so easy to think all of these hard questions, but I think your reflection and contribution made this session meaningful for me and truly inspiring. I warmly invite you to join to our upcoming webinars, where we'll explore these topics even more deeply. And just a reminder, on our project's website, you can watch our previous recordings on clinical and leadership modules anytime. And thank you again, and I'm looking forward to see you all in the becoming webinars. And now I will hand the mic to Minna.
Thank you, Miina-Liisa, and we have still time for questions. So feel free to type to the chat some questions, and I will give you a little bit of time to write there, and I can start with my question. So, Minna-Liisa, you brought very much broad issues and important points of ethical things. What should you recommend for nurses to do when they face this kind of situations?
Yeah, thank you, Minna. That's a really good question. And when I was doing my presentation, I'm like now just speaking about what are the dilemmas, but not really focusing on how we nurses should act when we see such a dilemmas. But I think that like we have to recognize the dilemmas first. Then I think we should have some tools how to act in the situations, or how to look at the dilemmas in multiple perspectives, so we can see, because I think the nutrition example for one example is that I see the dilemma, but it's really good for me to see why the family is acting the way they are. And I think that is like really common thing for the relatives when they are really distressed. They are in maybe the hardest situation in their life, and they are trying to cope. And then when I look at the dilemma in different angles, I can understand better of other points of view. And I think it's really important if we have some safe space, like you said also, where we can really reflect these ideas together. How should we face this dilemma? How should we work and act? What are the different ways to act? And these are also, I don't want this to be a commercial, but I want to say that these are the subjects of the becoming webinars. So we can have the tools, we can look at ethical reflection, what it can be in a team or so we can be more skilled in that area. Did that answer to your question?
Yeah, thank you very much. And then in the chat from Adam, did the terminology "we should act in the patient's best interest" come up in the research? This is usual ethical dilemma from medical perspective, and understanding what does best interest mean, and how do we find out the best interest of patient if there is not an advanced care plan?
This is an yeah. I can say that this came up in the research of the 247 nurses, that if we don't know what are the wishes of the patients, the dilemma is like we don't know how to what is the best interests of the patient. Did I understand this correct? Mm-hmm. And that is a really difficult situation when, like, I think in a lot of places we have the same situation where palliative care is thought that it is combined in end-of-life care or in terminal phase. So this makes it really we face a really challenging situation that we should provide the communication about advanced care planning or advanced directives much more earlier. And if we are facing like patient with diseases like memory loss or ALS or something that they are lacking the capable communication, they are when the disease develops, it's not possible to get the patient voice heard. So I think it's really, there are many things that, many dilemmas that came from these really hard situations, but there are many things that we can do to help them, like finding the time before it's too late for these conversations.
Thank you, Miina-Liisa. And now I was looking that there is now new questions, or did I catch everything? No, just a lot of thanks and hearts to you, Miina-Liisa. One message, no, I think it was from Patricia. Thank you to the DIAP team. That was not a question. So I really, again, want to thank you, Miina-Liisa. It has been a pleasure to hear the preliminary results of the survey, and really looking forward to read more and hear more about the very important piece of work you are doing and building kind of a very good ground to us to develop the tools we are doing here in the project, so that it reflects the reality from different cultures. So thank you for that, and thank you for being here, and thank you for everyone who are here with us, and I hope we will meet in the next webinars so that you will also get the tools how to act. So I will head to Patricia.
Thank you so much, Miina, and to Miina-Liisa. That was really a great kickoff to our third series on leadership webinars. And as you saw, we have our upcoming webinars. We will have details on how to register. They will be available from either later today or tomorrow. Keep an eye on our social media and on our website. What just leads me to is with the certificate of attendance, and most importantly, the evaluation form. You can download it from the link that is in the chat or from this QR code. So I will leave this up for you so that you can take down the details. But most of all, I would like to thank all of you for attending, for taking the time to register, and for joining us today. And we look forward to seeing you over the coming weeks. Thank you.